Why, for once, can't I just have this one thing, Steve? This one thing.
Movie star, model, superhero, meme. Depending on who you ask, one of the worst actresses working in Hollywood today. For years, her performances have been the target of relentless criticism. Too stiff, too flat, too emotionless, no range. Every time she steps in front of a camera, it's only a matter of time before another compilation of awkward line deliveries goes viral. And yet somehow, she keeps getting cast in major studio films. No matter how bad the performance, there's always another $100 million movie waiting in the pipeline. It's like the film industry exists in complete denial, convinced that if they just keep putting her in front of a camera, one day she might actually deliver a convincing performance. So today, we're going to figure out exactly why this keeps happening and what it reveals about the way Hollywood actually works. If we're going to understand how this all went wrong, we have to start with Wonder Woman in 2017. This was the film that made Gal Gadot a household name, and at the time, nobody really questioned her as an actress. The film was a massive success, and she seemed perfect for the role. But here's the thing. Wonder Woman didn't succeed because of great acting. It succeeded because director Patty Jenkins understood exactly what she had and built the entire film around covering up the weaknesses. The No Man's Land sequence is the perfect example. It's become iconic, and it works brilliantly. But notice what it actually requires from Gadot. Physical presence, yes. Charisma, sure. But complex dialogue? No. Emotional depth? Not really. She's framed as a symbol, not a person. Bullets bounce off her bracelets while soldiers watch in disbelief. The music swells, the camera makes her look powerful, and the audience is swept up in the spectacle. It's effective filmmaking that plays to her strengths while carefully avoiding her limitations. But every so often, even in that first film, the cracks started to show. Take the moment when Diana watches her fellow Amazons being killed, including her aunt and mentor. This should have been devastating. The death of someone who raised her, who trained her, who represented everything about her home. But her reaction feels oddly muted, more like mild frustration than genuine grief. The camera even stays on just one side of her face for most of the shot, which is actually a clever directorial choice. If you only show half the face, you only get half of the awkward performance. From an acting standpoint, this is what's called indicating. She demonstrates emotion instead of actually feeling it. There's no tears forming, no change in breathing, no real movement in the eyes. It's the surface-level signifiers of sadness without any of the internal reality that makes a performance believable. Compare it to literally any other film where an actor loses someone important, and the difference becomes stark. Even that intentionally over-the-top parody play from Thor Ragnarok has more genuine emotion. And that scene is supposed to be a joke. Wonder Woman worked because Patty Jenkins was smart enough to structure the film around these limitations. The music carried the emotional weight. The cinematography made her look heroic. The script avoided anything too complex. And it was excellent filmmaking in service of making an actress look far more capable than she actually was. Then came Wonder Woman 1984. And somehow Patty Jenkins forgot everything that made the first film successful. The sequel was a mess for many reasons. The story didn't work, the tone was all over the place, the villain motivations made no sense. But more importantly, all of that clever protective filmmaking from the first movie was gone. This time, Gadot couldn't hide behind spectacle and heroic framing. She had to carry actual dramatic scenes, and the result was a disaster. She drifts through the film like she's not entirely sure what emotion she's supposed to be feeling. Every line sounds like it's being read off a teleprompter she doesn't fully trust. Her attempts at humor land with the grace of a car crash, and she has about as much romantic chemistry with Steve Trevor as a wooden board. The part of the movie where Diana confronts Maxwell Lord and asks him to give up the stone should have been a massive emotional climax. Instead, it plays out like an awkward misunderstanding at a customer service desk. There's a scene in Skyfall where James Bond jumps onto a train and tells the worker to open the door with this dry, assertive charm. It's a small moment, but Daniel Craig sells it completely. When Gadot delivers the line, "I need you to give me the stone," it's supposed to be powerful and commanding. Instead, it's unintentionally hilarious. Pedro Pascal isn't even acting in his reaction shot. He's just trying to process the way she delivered that line. Wonder Woman 1984 flopped hard. And this was the movie that made people really start questioning whether she could actually act. There was nothing left to hide behind. No clever camera work, no protective editing, No overwhelming spectacle to distract from the hollow performance. People started to see her as a bit of a joke, and that whole Imagine video she organized at the start of the pandemic didn't exactly help her case. The year 2020 marked the beginning of what we might call Gadot's cringe era. Studios kept throwing her into expensive films in hope that sheer budget would compensate for the lack of talent. She appeared in Red Notice opposite Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds, Death on the Nile with an ensemble cast, and Heart of Stone as a spy thriller lead. In every single one, she played essentially the same character, a vaguely mysterious woman who speaks like she remembered her lines half a second too late. Every era has its defining moment, that one line or scene that perfectly captures everything wrong with it. For Gadot's cringe era, that moment came in Death on the Nile when she said, "And enough champagne to fill the Nile?" It was supposed to sound elegant and classy, the kind of thing a sophisticated character would say at a glamorous party. Instead, it came across as unintentionally campy, almost like a Saturday Night Live parody of what a bad actress thinks sophistication sounds like. It summed up her entire post-Wonder Woman career. Expensive productions, big budgets, and performances that were accidentally hilarious. But things weren't about to get any better. In 2025, Disney released its live-action Snow White remake, and Gadot found herself part of yet another cinematic disaster. The film bombed for multiple reasons, including a disastrous press tour, but for reasons only Disney understands, they decided to cast Gadot as the Evil Queen. This should have been a warning sign from the beginning. The Evil Queen is one of Disney's most iconic villains, a character that requires genuine menace, theatrical presence, and the ability to convey cruelty and vanity in equal measure. Gadot cannot do evil. She can't do queen. She can barely do acting. When she delivers her lines as the villain, there's never any power or real threat behind them. Her face barely reacts to anything happening around her. She speaks as if she's not entirely certain she remembered the script correctly. And whenever she tries to sound threatening by raising her voice, it somehow comes across like she's shouting in lowercase. There's no bite, no danger, no genuine menace. It's someone performing the idea of being villainous without understanding what that actually means. And if the 2020 Imagine video wasn't bad enough, Disney decided to give her a singing role as the Evil Queen. This was a truly bewildering choice. She doesn't really sing so much as stumble her way through the melody. In musical scenes, the voice, the movement, and the emotion need to connect. The audience has to believe that the character means what they're singing. That's what makes musical performances work. Gadot sings the notes technically, but there's no feeling behind any of it. Her facial expressions and body language don't match the song. She just goes through the motions, and that's why it feels so painfully awkward. You can see the effort, but you cannot feel the emotion. The editing in her musical number feels rushed and desperate. There are so many cuts that it becomes visually confusing, clearly an attempt to hide how stiff the performance actually was. At one point, she raises her arms twice in consecutive shots that are barely half a second apart. Once you notice it, you can't unsee it. And this was a $270 million Disney production. At that price point, you would think someone might have caught that before exporting the final cut. So, after all of this, what have we actually learned? Well, Gal Gadot isn't a great actress. But strangely enough, that's not entirely her fault. Studios don't hire her to act. No, they hire her to represent whatever buzzword or marketing angle is trending that particular year. Strong female character. Empowering role model. International appeal. She ticks boxes that matter to executives worried about global box office returns and social media engagement. The problem is that when you build an entire career on image instead of actual craft, eventually that image starts to crack. And when it does, you're left with the awkward reality that there's nothing substantial underneath. No real emotional depth, no technical skill, no ability to disappear into a character. Just someone performing the idea of acting while sounding like they're buffering mid-sentence. And rather ironically, this makes her the perfect symbol for modern Hollywood itself. Expensive, overproduced, and completely hollow. How the industry has become so focused on marketability, franchise potential, and global appeal that the actual quality of performance has become almost secondary. Studios would rather hire someone who photographs well and has a strong social media presence than someone who can actually inhabit a character and make you believe what's happening on screen. This isn't just about one actress, it's about a system that has forgotten that movies are supposed to be more than just marketing exercises. When Wonder Woman worked, It was because a talented director understood the limitations of her lead actress and crafted the film accordingly. When that protective filmmaking disappeared, so did any illusion of competence. What we're left with is a cautionary tale about what happens when image becomes more valuable than talent. When the appearance of quality matters more than quality itself. The blunt truth is that Hollywood will keep making these choices as long as they remain profitable. As long as audiences show up for spectacle over substance, studios will keep casting based on marketability rather than ability. And actresses like Gal Gadot will continue getting roles in major films, not because they've earned them through craft, but because they fit whatever demographic the marketing department thinks will sell tickets. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the entertainment industry, and let me know in the comments what other career trajectories you'd like me to analyze next.